Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Lower student enrollment, the end to federal COVID funding, and delayed tax revenues, all reasons for major cuts in the state's education budget. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. We are just a few weeks away from the start of California's fiscal new year. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more tonight on what is in and how much could be out for schools at all levels.
Usually patients that aren't able to take fluids orally, we'd have to go through a different route.
Julius Lozada is a first-year nursing student in the San Diego City College program that has a prestigious record. An average of 99.5% of graduates here pass the state-required licensing exam on their first try. It's a goal and dream for him.
My mother had cancer growing up. I ended up losing her. And just the care that she got, I just wanted to emulate the same thing to all the patients that I come in contact with.
That dream in memory of his mother could include completion of a 4-year bachelor's degree in nursing from City College. At the moment, the administration is campaigning for a bill in the state legislature that would allow that 4-year degree starting in the next fiscal year. The current revised state budget includes $60 million for community college nursing programs to help the state's nursing shortage.
We are needed. We are essential. We are the elements to provide care for the patients who deserve it.
While the San Diego Community College District waits on the state to approve a 4-year nursing degree, education officials are also waiting on the final state budget and the cuts that will make funding education in California a challenge next year. Although California has made the expansion of transitional kindergarten a priority, the governor's latest revised budget still has cutbacks for early education, eliminating $550 million in funding for more buildings to house preschools, TK classrooms, and full-day kindergarten programs. Governor Newsom also plans to cut $60 million from the Golden State Grant Program that helps teachers pay for their credentialing classes if they commit to teaching on underserved campuses.
He's trying to keep education from having huge cuts.
Troy Flint is communications director of the California School Boards Association, which represents almost 1,000 districts and county offices of education across the state. The association is considering suing the state if some of the cutbacks for essential programs are approved. Flint claims the governor is manipulating the budget shortfall, making it appear less by not claiming Prop 98 money as educational funds. Prop 98 guarantees a minimum level of funding for education.
The state is basically loaning money to itself to cover a debt that was incurred in previous years. Some people have compared it to basically a payday loan.
Some good news coming in the San Diego Unified School District late this afternoon. The president of the Teachers Union reports the district has rescinded almost all of its planned layoffs of credentialed teachers. Those cuts were supposed to help with the district's own budget shortfall next year. The union says those 101 teachers' jobs are guaranteed at least through the end of the next school year. MG Perez, KPBS News.
San Diego Unified says it's also rescinding layoff notices for another 124 workers. Originally, 234 district employees were slated to be laid off. Now it's only 9.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and coming up on KPBS News tonight, we are tracking some low clouds near the coast. Typical pattern here of May with that marine layer. So cloudiness tonight, cloudiness to start into the morning, maybe some sunshine returning by the afternoon. A little bit cooler to start the weekend, and then we'll watch temperatures come back up. I'll have more details coming up tonight.
In a response to increasing tension around pro-Palestine protests, unionized workers at University of California campuses have authorized a strike. United Auto Workers Local 4811 represents thousands of graduate student workers across the state, including at UC San Diego. The union reported that 79% of its members approved the strike authorization last night. The goal is not to raise wages, but to protect workers' rights. The union is asking universities to disclose all its known investments in weapons manufacturers, military contractors, and companies that may be making a profit from the Israel-Hamas war. As we've seen at UC San Diego, some universities have called on police to detain protesters and shut down pro-Palestinian encampments. Emily Schmidt shows how universities are working to balance student safety with freedom of speech.
At DePaul University Thursday, the view from the air showed a shifting ground strategy.
Over 40,000 dead.
Police in riot gear cleared a pro-Palestinian encampment at the Chicago school after DePaul's president said good faith efforts to negotiate with protesters over the past 17 days failed.
As we approached, all the subjects voluntarily left the area.
A university spokesperson says there were no arrests on the university's quad. But two people who were obstructing traffic on a nearby roadway were arrested. It was a different picture Wednesday at the University of California, Irvine, when police clearing an encampment arrested at least a dozen pro-Palestinian protesters.
They are destroying the campus and undoing a democratic, peaceful protest.
The university is holding Thursday classes remotely.
Congratulations, class of 2024.
At NYU, a few dozen students walked out of commencement to demonstrate their support for Palestine, as other students expressed how much they cherished the ceremony.
As a Jewish student, it really means a lot to be here today, especially because with the protests going on, like the safety of a lot of me and my friends has been in question.
The University of Washington's president is calling on protesters to dismantle their encampment as the school cleans up graffiti, some of it violent and anti-Semitic, discovered on multiple campus buildings. The president calls the situation untenable, unlikely as simple to manage as cleaning up graffiti. Emily Schmidt, KPBS News.
Two former professors are suing Southwestern College for retaliation after reporting a racial discrimination. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson spoke with alumni who say accountability is long overdue.
Southwestern is a mostly Latino community college in Chula Vista. Lorene Azen enrolled in its dental hygiene program in 2016. It was her dream.
Sounds a bit weird, but I thoroughly enjoy watching the calcified plaque break away from the enamel.
The first day, she says her professor, Kisa Waddell, said something odd.
10, 15 years ago, you just see so many blondes. And now I look around the program, there's just so many brunettes. It's just so funny.
Azen, who is Middle Eastern, says it was the first of many racially tinged comments made by Waddell, who is white.
Like she'll say it, but with a joke, you know, to where you would have to question yourself, like, wait, did she really just say that?
Waddell and college leadership declined to comment on the claims in this story. Another day, Azen says,
she was saying, hey, if you guys see a big black man that's fixing the AC, don't be afraid. That is the dean's assistant. I thought that was just wild. Some of us looked at each other like, what is this lady saying? What is she trying to say more so?
The indirectness made Azen question herself.
Is this just me? Is it in my head? So I Googled. And I found a whole slew of complaints.
RateMyProfessors.com is full of complaints against Waddell, including racism. Azen says she tried to talk to the program director, Jean Honey.
She didn't even let me get a word in. She said, listen, I know what this is about, and I'm going to tell you this right now. If you are going to be successful in private practice, gossip is only going to get you fired.
Honey also declined to comment for this story.
After hearing that with Honey, I was scared.
Azen felt like she was up against a power structure that could break her dream.
This is, your livelihood. You've gone through so many years of school. You're at the mercy of these people.
She failed out of her first year. She says Waddell kept losing her assignments and not totaling her points correctly.
I had to wait a whole another year to reapply, and it was embarrassing.
She says that time in her life has become a blur.
There's a lot of things that I kind of just buried, because I've never experienced something like that.
Her classmate, Nellie Ramirez, says she's buried it too. But one incident with Waddell remains fresh in Ramirez's mind years later. She and Azen were preparing to educate Chula Vista school children about how sugary drinks and candy affect dental health.
She made a comment saying, don't you think you should be talking to them about eating tacos and burritos instead, which was, in the moment, obviously, because it was just, how do you process that, right?
But students could confide, Azen says, in two professors, Linda Lucas and Karen Kubishta.
They heard with an open heart and treated you like a human being. All of the other students can attest to that.
Students were afraid if they reported racist treatment, they would fail the program. So Lucas and Kubishta brought a Title IX complaint on their behalf with anonymous letters from nearly a dozen students. It names several faculty and staff, including Waddell and Honey. It describes professors speaking to students who have accents, quote, painfully slow and loud. A U.S.-born student copying an immigrant student's work and receiving much higher scores. Students unable to sleep or concentrate in class because of racist treatment. And includes their own testimony, like Honey warning them to, quote, be careful when dealing with, quote, those people, referring to African American and Muslim students. In the complaint, Lucas and Kubishta also voiced fear that they would be retaliated against. According to their recent lawsuit, that's exactly what happened. Their lawyer, Arash Sadat.
Then they start changing their hours. The school starts, fabricating alleged violations against them.
He says the school pulled Lucas off a class she had taught for a decade. They denied both professors remote teaching during the pandemic and then put them both on leave.
And the reason they're doing this is to get rid of these two professors who they believe to be a problem.
If so, it ultimately worked. Both quit. Waddell retired recently. Sadat says before that, she received multiple promotions, taking Kubishta's old position. Honey took a position at a college in Riverside. Even today, former students like Azen say they're still nervous to speak, but they must.
For all the other students, we have to say something. This has been going on for so many years.
In 2018, a USC report found a, quote, climate of anti-Blackness at Southwestern. Tomorrow, we'll hear from college leadership about what they've done since to change that, and from current Black students. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
Scientists have identified a group of COVID variants with the same mutations. Some worry these variants could lead to a summer wave of infections. Mandy Gaither has more on what to know about the so-called flirt variants.
In less than 2 months, the KP.2 variant has overtaken JN.1 variant, becoming the dominant strain spreading in the U.S., now causing around 28% of COVID-19 infections.
There's some suggestion that it might be more easily transmissible. It does not, however, seem to be causing more severe disease.
That's the first thing Dr. Priya Sampath Kumar with Mayo Clinic says people should know about this new variant, which is one of several being called flirt variants, spreading at a time when experts are coming up with formulations for the fall COVID vaccine.
The WHO recommended that the JN.1 strain be the basis of the vaccine, but now in the U.S. they're reconsidering whether that would be the case or whether they would need to focus on this newly mutated strain instead.
Sampath Kumar says the current vaccines may not work as effectively to prevent transmission, but she says getting one can still prevent severe disease from a COVID infection. Next, the doctor says the flirt variants cause the same kinds of respiratory symptoms as earlier variants, such as cough, fever, headache, and muscle aches. Because the new variants appear to spread easily, they could fuel a summer wave of the virus.
People are going to be traveling on vacation, going to ball games, going to concerts, etc.
Finally, you can protect yourself and others by washing your hands, masking in crowded areas, and if you're sick, stay home. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The city of San Diego has more than 250 miles of alleys, and that is according to a UC San Diego professor who says they could become safer, greener public spaces. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says the community can learn how this weekend in Normal Heights.
For many San Diegans, alleys are places to park your car or throw out your trash. But UC San Diego urban studies professor Sue Pearson says they could be so much more.
Alleys are an untapped resource, and by getting community input, we want to turn this alley from a space to a place.
On Saturday, Pearson, her students, and community partners will seek that input as part of a pop-up event in Normal Heights, where she says alleys make up 30% of the street network. The alley south of Adams Avenue off Mansfield Street will have interactive models, kids' activities, a gallery of urban studies students' designs, and an opportunity for attendees to share their own ideas.
Students looked at seating and lighting and green walls. Maybe the idea to take a two-way alley and make it a one-way alley to reduce the impact and the width of the car traffic and the truck traffic, and then turn balance the rest of the alley for walking and biking.
Other ideas include adding bike racks, little free libraries, and more visible crosswalks. Pearson held the first Alleys in Action event back in 2018. She says the pandemic put the project on hold and made outdoor public spaces even more necessary. The first change Normal Heights residents will likely see in this alley is a mural, with the support of building owner Normal Heights United Church. Community members are invited to make suggestions about the mural and other ideas for the alley from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
San Diego International Fringe Festival kicks off tonight, and KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando has these recommendations for curating a perfect fringe experience.
Bill Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage." But Fringe says, what if we only give you this?
You have a very limited space, like a meter or so. One light, no text, no dialogue, no narrative, no set props. And you just have to make a show under those stipulations.
Meet Daniel Nodder of Only Bones.
In restriction will spark extra creativity. So Only Bones was a format created by Tom Monckton, another New Zealand-born physical theatre artist. He created a set of regulations to create minimalist physical theatre.
And it's the epitome of what Fringe is all about. It's about wacky innovation and serving up shows you won't find anywhere else.
Definitely very fringy.
But while Nodder's show reflects minimalism in all its fringe glory, theater group Gumbo showcases the chaotic maximalism.
I'm so happy to see you here!
Theater group Gumbo has made multiple trips to San Diego Fringe from Japan.
I'm so sorry!
And every visit brings the pure anarchy and delight you can only find at Fringe. And to complete your festival experience, you need to venture out to the fringes of the Fringe. Cotta Pierce Morgan has been part of BYOV, or Bring Your Own Venue, for years. And her venue is the historic Les Girls Theater.
Our resident company, Golden Corpse, we're avant-garde, and we present social injustice shows about what happened around Les Girls. You know, we're the story about what happens when society runs amok.
No Regrets recounts the true story of how strippers were harassed and arrested in a raid by vice cops. But since this is Fringe, you need to be prepared for non-traditional storytelling.
So we're going to make a spaceship. We got an alien. She comes spouting out, and in the course of this Act 1, she finds the time capsule. This is how I decided that we were going to go from 2024 to 1968. The time capsule for me is symbolic for what we're doing. If you have a time capsule and you have preserved, what has happened in the past, you can open it up, and you can discover, you can see some light on what you need in order to go from darkness to light, to maintain human compassion and equality, and all the things that it's so easy for us to forget.
Piers Morgan's shows are ultimately about not being a silent bystander and about political battles fought from the unlikely stage of a strip club.
Listen to my song, it isn't very long. You'll see before I'm gone that everybody's wrong.
Piers Morgan's dedication to Fringe takes on a new dimension this year as she provides 2 venues to add performance space to the fringes of the Fringe.
In Lincoln Park, at a huge complex with stages and, just bringing art into an underserved neighborhood.
San Diego International Fringe Festival brings a rich diversity of art that you can't find anywhere else. If you want to have the most fringy of Fringe experiences, then check out these shows. Or take a stab at something completely different. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And Kata Piers Morgan will be featured in the new 6-part series from Beth Accomando, Stripper Energy, Fighting Back from the Fringes. And that premieres next Wednesday on YouTube.
Let's start off with our weather headlines as we are tracking very typical conditions for this time of year. That May marine layer moving on through, bringing us the low clouds at night, low clouds to start into the morning, and overall some cooler conditions. Cooler conditions continue for most of Sunday into Monday, but if you like things warmer, good news for next week as temperatures should come up a little bit more. Clouds, especially along the coast through tonight. Oceanside, San Diego, Chula Vista, temperatures dropping down into the 60s. Borrego Springs, 65 overnight, and Mount Laguna, your temperatures dropping to about 55 as we head into this evening. Warmth moves in as we head into the day on Friday, so it should be decent to enjoy some outdoor activities. Let's see where temperatures go by our Friday afternoon. Looking at 69 in Oceanside, San Diego 67, Chula Vista 68, and near 100 degrees for Borrego Springs tomorrow. So it will be heating up here across the deserts as we head into the weekend. Look at that, all that heat continuing to build here. Some of the hottest temperatures we've seen so far this season. Meanwhile, staying cool along the California coast here thanks to those low clouds hanging on throughout the morning, and they may not have too much luck breaking as we head into the afternoon. I do want to let you know about an air quality alert that does go until 6 o'clock on Friday. That includes areas like Palm Springs, Coachella, dealing with the increased air quality, and lower air quality continues to move on through. So being and limiting some of those time outdoors, any kind of vigorous activity may be better for you here over the next couple of days. Let's take a look here at what we are tracking as we head into the coast with those low clouds continuing to linger, upper 60s, but then near 70 by the time we head into Tuesday. By Friday, we're looking good. Further inland, 72, and then temperatures peak on Saturday before cooling a little bit as we head into the start of next week. Your mountain forecast, we'll see temperatures dropping to the 50s for the next several days, so enjoy the 60s tomorrow, and then wrapping things up into the deserts, we'll see a break in the 90s as we head into the start of next week. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
A new opera company is making its debut in downtown San Diego. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says they are making the high-class art of opera accessible to all.
Inside the quaint 10th Avenue Arts Theater in downtown San Diego, a new era begins.
We just want to introduce people perhaps who aren't as familiar with the classical voice to our style of singing, and to opera also.
Opera a la carte founder Abla Lynn Hamza is excited for their inaugural production, Giacomo Puccini's La Bohème.
Anybody from any walk of life can enjoy it because the story is universal. It's about love, it's about struggle, it's about the realities of life and how life can be hard sometimes.
It's a classic opera told in a bold new way, says director Angelina Rayo.
This opera, it's really written for like early 1800s, and it's usually in long, dresses, for, 1800s costumes. But I've set it in 1941 occupied Paris, and because I think war always, it intensifies people's emotions.
The story follows 4 bohemians living together During a freezing Christmas Eve, their lives are changed. Rayo sees her rendition more like a play with music.
Oh, it's so human. It's just filled with humanity.
Soren Peterson performs as Marcello in the opera.
He's got a lot going on. He's got anger, he's got love in a kind of convoluted but very authentic way for him.
Like all of the cast bringing the story to life, he has roots in San Diego. Peterson's played this role before, but not in a setting like this.
What I'm expecting is a very fun and intimate production. Because, I mean, everybody's right here. You know, you can see all of our expressions, which is not something you get to do, at least for very cheap, in a real opera house.
Opera à la carte does more than hire local talent. They aim to fill gaps in the industry. Their mission is to ensure that the beauty of opera and classical singing is within reach for all audiences. Peterson says that approach
is one of the ways that opera can stay alive in the coming generations, and it's a necessity, I would say, for our art form. So it's really fun to be a part of something like this.
It's created for and by the San Diego community.
There aren't a lot of smaller companies here, and there are all these talented performers, and I really wanted to give people opportunities to perform, as well as introduce people to opera who maybe don't know that much about it.
Hamza has her hands full. She's not just producing the show, she's performing in it too, as Mimi.
It's been a challenge, to be honest. It's been a challenge. I bit off quite a lot.
Rayo says the production will immerse audiences when they enter the theater doors, through propaganda posters, police barriers, and a World War II-era radio. Shows kick off Thursday and run nightly through Sunday. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.